Hello guys, hi, welcome back to today's class, physical health education class with Miss Anne Okara. Welcome back. So in our last class, we spoke about diseases, okay? We learned what a disease is, and we also learned that there is a difference between sickness and illness. And we learned what the difference is between sickness and illness. So in today's class, we are still looking at diseases, okay? We are still talking about diseases, but we are talking about a different kind of disease, okay? A different type. And the type we're talking about today is the communicable kind of disease and the non-communicable diseases. Okay, so there's also a difference between the two. So we are going to find out what is a communicable disease and how can we get it. Then I'm going to give you examples of communicable diseases so that you can avoid, you can prevent yourself from having this kind of disease. Then also we're going to talk about the non-communicable diseases and what causes them. So let's start. Now, in the year 2020, I believe everybody remembers that year. In fact, it's a year that I personally would not forget. It was the year of COVID-19, the year of lockdown, as in total lockdown, global lockdown. Everybody was locked down. We were all restricted. Our movement was restricted for our own safety. Okay, so all that happened in the year 2020. So borders were sealed, schools were closed, people had to stay indoors all around the world. And this was due to a kind of disease called COVID 19 called COVID 19. Now, this COVID 19 is an example of what we call communicable disease because anybody could catch it. Once you just come in contact with somebody who has it, you have it, you just get it. Okay, so that brings us to communicable disease. I said COVID 19 is an example of communicable disease. The whole world was locked down because of that disease to prevent the spread. So now let's learn what are communicable diseases. Now, a communicable disease is a disease that can be passed from one person to another. It's a disease that can be passed from one individual to another. Now, communicable disease, they are caused by microorganisms. Microorganisms means they are very, very tiny organisms. You can't see them with your naked eyes, okay? You need to see them with the aid of what we call a microscope. So they are actually existing. They are in the air. They are all around you. But you can't see them. Even if you squint your eyes, you won't see anything until you make use of what you call a microscope. So they are so tiny for the natural eyes to see, except with the aid of a microscope. Now, these tiny organisms, these microorganisms, we have different types of them, from the bacteria to the virus to fungi to protists, all of them. They cause disease. Okay, so they are the ones that carry this disease, they are the ones that cause this disease, and they are the ones that pass this disease from one person to another person. So, communicable disease are simply diseases that can be passed from one person to another person by direct contact. Now, how can this communicable disease, how can we get it? How can they be passed from one person to another? Number one, through direct contact. So, diseases such as cold, chickenpox, measles, ringworms, cough, etc. So they can be passed through direct contact or through the clothing of a sick person. So somebody has a cough and the person coughs out loud without caring to cover their mouth. The person just coughs and you are right there with your mouth open. You might not even need to even open your mouth. You're just there breathing and living and somebody just coughs carelessly. Before you notice it, a day or two, if you spend like an hour or a day with that person, after a day or two, you find that you are next in line. You also start coughing. That because you came in direct contact with the person who was coughing. Another example is chickenpox, measles, ringworms, cold. So these are all kinds of communicable diseases that can be passed by direct contacts with the affected person. Then also through infected food and water, your eating habits is very, very important. If you eat unhealthy food, you drink unclean water, you are definitely going to come in contact with a disease or two. And examples of disease that can be contacted through eating infected food and drinking unclean water, examples are typhoid, cholera. These are what we call foodborne diseases, okay? Typhoid, cholera, diarrhea, polio. So they can be spread by eating infected food and drinking polluted water. Another way that we can contact communicable disease is through the air we breathe. Like I said, these microorganisms, they are present in the air we breathe. We just can't see them, but they are there. So coughs, influenza, fever, they're examples of diseases that are present in the atmosphere. So just somebody, blowing their nose, catarrh, and the person doesn't dispose it properly, you can contact that. Before notices you have catarrh. Somebody sneezing carelessly, and particles of the person's sneeze, it lands on your body or it gets into your nostrils. Before after a while or so, you find yourself sneezing. The same thing too with cough. So they are all present in the air that we breathe. Okay, so they get in through our nose, they get in through our mouth. Then also we have insects and human beings that carry diseases. Example, HIV. Okay, you can hug somebody that has HIV and it won't get to you. But the moment there is a blood contact between your blood and the blood of the infected person, before you notice it, the HIV or AIDS that the person has been carrying, you also get to receive it from that person and you start carrying HIV or AIDS. And also we have insects that cause diseases. Mosquitoes, for example. Mosquitoes, once they bite you, they come in contact with your blood. So they bite you, they infect the person with what you call malaria. And after a while or two, you have malaria. So they bite you and they go around biting different people around you. Everybody ends up having malaria. So those are the various ways through which disease can be spread. So direct contact, eating bad food, drinking bad water, the air we breathe, through insects, through carriers. Okay. Now let's talk about non-communicable disease. So communicable disease are diseases that can be passed from one person to another. But non-communicable disease, these are diseases that they are not passed, they cannot be spread. So somebody has it doesn't mean you will get it. So they are a totally different kind of diseases that you might see with the person, you might sleep with the person, you might eat with the person, and nothing happens to you. Okay, so they are called non-communicable disease because they cannot spread. They cannot be passed from one person to another. Then what causes it? How do we end up having this kind of disease if we cannot collect it? We can't receive it from somebody who is infected. So how do we end up with this kind of diseases? That is through poor and unhealthy lifestyle. Poor and unhealthy lifestyle. We learned about this in sickness and illness. So poor and unhealthy lifestyle, malnutrition. Remember that we learned about malnutrition. That means you're not eating sufficient nutrients, you're not eating sufficient food. So the nutrient that your body needs, you're just giving your body less of that. It's not enough for your body. So you end up with different kind of diseases. Then genetic factors, what you receive from your mom and your dad. So examples are night blindness, beriberi, scurvy, cancer, diabetes, strokes, heart disease, and the rest of that. So your lifestyle, it can cause you to end up with a disease or two. The way you eat can cause you to end up with a disease or two. Then genetic factors, if your parents have it, you are likely to have it too. So smoking, drinking, dirty environment. So these are things that can bring about non-communicable disease. All right. So that is the difference between a communicable and non-communicable disease. So now that we've learned the difference, let me test you. So which of this is a communicable disease? You have tuberculosis, you have cancer. So tuberculosis is a contagious bacterial infection that primarily affects your lungs. It results in fever, coughing, and weight loss. While cancer, on the other hand, is a group of diseases whereby the cells they grow uncontrollably in an organ or tissue in the body. So which one do you think is a communicable disease? That means which one do you think can be easily passed down from one person to another? Is it tuberculosis? Is it cancer? Let me hear your answer in the comment section. Okay, so let's summarize everything that we have learned so far. So we've learned about diseases, that we have two types of disease, communicable and non-communicable. So communicable, it can be passed down from one person to another, while non-communicable, it cannot spread. Okay, so it cannot be spread from one person to another. And we have different factors that can cause diseases, such as your lifestyle, genetic factors, your eating habits, your drinking habits, um, genetics. Okay, so many factors that can cause disease. And we have examples of disease that can be spread from one person to another. We have HIV/AIDS, you have tuberculosis, you have cough, you have cholera, you have measles. While disease that cannot be spread from one person to another, you have diabetes, you have heart stroke, you have heart diseases, you have cancer, and the rest like that. So that brings us to the end of today's class. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next class where we are still going to talk about disease, but this time we are going to learn about signs and symptoms. And we are going to find out what is sign, what is symptom, and what is the difference between sign and symptom. So I'll see you in our next class. Bye.